Today's conversation is on releasing identification to appearances to allow all these things, whatsoever things ye desire, to be spontaneously added unto you. As stated in the Bible, seek ye first the kingdom, and all these things are added unto you, will be added unto you. That means that reality is perfect as it is now, as you are reality perfect as you are now. And knowing who you are, all these things that you once desired spontaneously arise and appear to be added onto you, which includes wonderful harmonious relationships, wonderful harmonious business, wonderful harmonious lifestyle, etc. All these things happen naturally in flow. And thus you can do nothing to receive the gifts which are the fruits of creation. The fruits of creation, as stated in Matthew 6:8, the Father knows what you need before you ask. How do you know? Practically speaking, how do you know that the Father knows what you need before you ask in prayer? Well, as you abide as you are in that still I am presence, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment permeate the mind and permeate the body. You do not need to suggest that you are, consciously suggest that you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Although you can do that if you would like to ease the mind. What is being pointed to is those words are pointers to acknowledge who you are. And you know who you are because the feeling is undeniable. By doing nothing to be as you are, thus abiding as that still I am presence, the truth of consciousness, the awareness of consciousness, the pure being you are, by abiding as you are, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment permeates the mind, permeates the body. And then all these symbols which you once desired, whatsoever things ye desire, which are symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, the definite chief aims, the visions, are naturally and spontaneously added onto you. See, as you know who you are by going inward and abiding as that still I am presence, undeniably you know who you are. There is no wanting, needing, waiting, craving, or suffering. You experience what I refer to as the flow-based journey to actualizing your vision. This is what I also discuss in the new book that I have released. You may or may not know about this. I released a new book on entrepreneurship. I call it The Direct Path to $1 million. Turn what you already have into a fortune. And it is built on the foundation of having built 3 successful businesses, one in IT from 2009 to 13. 2013, I started a consulting practice, which I built to success. And I also started this YouTube channel, which I have grown to success. And I also started another YouTube channel. If you're interested in the specifics, if you're interested in the specifics of entrepreneurship, I cover it in the new channel with the mind maps like I would do it before. And I may consider bringing these mind maps back, as I have a lot of fun making them, just as I have a lot of fun making these videos on camera like this. And if you're interested in that book, I'll link in the description. Thank you for everyone who has purchased the book. It has become a #1 bestseller in new releases, and also it is ranked quite high in a number of entrepreneurship categories. So thank you for that. That also happened very naturally in an effortless, fun, joyous, flow-based way. So all I did since I discovered this information back in 2004 is set definite chief aims. See, desire is being. Desire points to the fact that you already have, that you already are all that you desire to be. As you acknowledge that you are what you desire to be, you have what you desire. You could write it down on a definite chief aim card like I do. All these things naturally happen, they spontaneously happen. In other words, every definite chief aim that I've ever set since 2004, my first was getting out of $50,000 debt. Then I set a number of definite chief aims while I was in my corporate career. And then I set a definite chief aim to build my first business to success, which was my IT business. And there's been a number of definite chief aims, which are visions, what the desire was pointing to is being, I am. And more specifically, those visions are symbols of the being I am. They're symbols of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And when these visions are actualized, there is no suffering. You are here to experience the fruits of creation. Thus, these visions represent the fruits of creation. So, as these visions were actualized, what I have realized is that I can remain in flow to release identification to programming in mind that is generating the identification to it needs to be this way or that way in order to experience love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, which is illusory. And by that I mean, very specifically, identification to this person, this environment, that environment, this object, that object, this plan, this strategy in entrepreneurship, identification in a way where a person says, I need this, I must do this, I have to do this, I should do this, belongs to the ignorant I, and you are not the ignorant I. The ignorant I tries to control reality, but meanwhile, reality appears to be under control of the being I am. In other words, everything happens spontaneously to be in harmony with all beyond these illusions of I that is generating the suffering. So, what can I do then? I can release identification. If, let's say, the individual in mind thinks they need this or they need that in order to actualize the vision, which is done by grace, by God, as only God alone exists ultimately, and only God alone animates all in perfect harmony. So one could even say then, you don't need to set a definite chief aim. Certainly that's the case. I have some friends who have wonderful lifestyles, wonderful relationships, etc., and they've never set a definite chief aim. It happened. Yet, what I had found for my journey was it was helpful. And I look at it as a compass so that I can relate to this world from the premise of truth. And by that I mean, if let's say something appears in this world where I notice identification, so I am beyond identification, existing as love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, existence, consciousness, bliss, beyond identification. And as I am aware of what I associate to this world, think, emotionally relate, that reveals the identification, I can in that moment do nothing to be as I am. I can in that moment do nothing to relax into the flow, to be as I am, and abide as that still I am presence. Speaking of which, I dedicated a section in the book to the still I am presence and autosuggestions. Again, if you're interested in the book, the link is in the description. So, this is the direct spiritual path. Literally doing nothing, I dissolve into the being I am, and I acknowledge that I am not identified with these appearances, which includes the physical appearances, this person, that person, environment, condition, etc., thoughts, emotions, body, anything that appears to me. I am aware of, I witness these things, yet I am transcendent to these things. And I am already existing in perfection, in fulfillment, in love, in happiness, in peace, in bliss. And as you and I are no different, you as well exist unaffected by these appearances. Prove the point. By releasing identification and abiding as that still I am presence, acknowledging that still I am presence as the perfect peace, the everlasting love, the perfect love, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment beyond conditions, beyond limitations. The programming in mind dissolves. The appearances continue to flow, yet now they appear to be in harmony with you. They appear to be in harmony with your vision because you already know that you have what you desire. You already know you are already that which you desire to be. You have found it in the form of desire. Desire means having, desire means being. Or we could say desire points to fulfillment. And as a desire arises, thank you, I have. That's prayer. Thank you, I have. Thank you, I am. Give it to God to take care of everything for you. And everything flows. You don't need to worry about this, when, how. You don't need to worry about anything. It's taken care of for you by grace. It happens in flow. Everything happens in flow. The individual identified with this thought, this emotion, this appearance, this condition generates suffering. And in that point, they can allow things to happen naturally for them by doing nothing to release identification. So, with respect to entrepreneurship, when I wrote that book, it is a reflection of my 16 years in entrepreneurship. And I talk about what I found to be commonalities from consulting and my own entrepreneurial success. So the book is written on the foundation of real world experience. Yet all of that happened naturally and spontaneously from the sure foundation of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, which we could say is Joseph's way. And it is why I say in the book, your way is the best way. That doesn't mean your way is better than my way, and my way is better than your way, or your way is better than this other person's way, and this other person's way is better than your way. There's only the way. I am the way, and the way appears as individual ways. It naturally happens in flow. You need not worry, you need not concern, you need not do this or that in order to get. You can remain as you are, beyond identification to whatever thoughts, emotions, behaviors, environment, conditions, etc., that we could say seem to suggest that you lack, that you are not who you desire to be, which is an illusion. As we are discussing, desire is being. I remain as I am, desireless. Yet we can experience what Napoleon Hill talks about in Think and Grow Rich as the burning desire. What that means is you are compelled to take this step, take that step, talk to this person, etc. And upon, as Steve Jobs had mentioned in his commencement speech, I used to listen to it over and over again when I was building my IT business. Upon connecting the dots looking backwards, you may write a book about it. You may tell stories of the way it happened for you. But as I tell these stories, as I wrote the book, and to be very clear in the book and also in the new channel where I discuss entrepreneurship, if you're interested in that, I'll link in the description to it as well. To be very clear, it is not to suggest that my way is better than your way, or my way is better than another person's way. All these ways happen. And then we tell stories. We find commonalities and we share them. And as we find these different ways, let's say prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, ongoing business with existing clients, optimizing the innovation, the sales, the operations, the finance, the leadership, we have exploratory conversations with each other. This is what we do in Flow-Based Prosperity, my group coaching and mastermind service. We have exploratory conversations where I don't suggest, I don't think, I don't force or impose my will upon people saying, you need to do this, you should do this, you must do this, this is the only way. You will fail if you don't do it this way. Because having been, practically speaking, a consultant for thousands of businesses since 2013, I have found so many ways. I have found so many ways for myself, so many ways for these businesses, and they have, and we've had many conversations also with their clients, their vendors, their business partners, their masterminds, have discovered so many ways that the reasonable conclusion is that there are infinity ways. There are ways that are known, and then there are ways that are unknown. And I don't worry about the known and unknown ways. Those ways happen naturally while in flow. And as mentioned with Steve Jobs, he said, upon connecting the dots looking backwards, you can say it happened this way, that way, and this helped me with that. Those are stories. Meanwhile, only God alone exists, transcendent to the logical thinking and what human beings think is the way. Who doeth the work? I can of myself do nothing. The Father within doeth the work. So what can I do then? I can do nothing. I can remain as I am and allow all these things to be added on to me. You can remain as you are and allow all these things to be added on to you. Whatsoever things you desire. As again stated in the Bible, this is not something that I made up. This is not that is something that I want to share because I think it's just cool and an interesting concept. Although it is quite cool, we could say, or an interesting concept. Yet it is articulated in the Bible. It says, seek ye first the kingdom, and all these things will be added onto you. It is the direct way, the easiest way that I found to allow all these things that you once desired, whatsoever things you desire, to spontaneously appear to happen for you. Harmonious relationships, harmonious business, harmonious life experiences. Everything happens naturally, effortlessly, in flow. That is the way. The way of life is flow. And so everything happens naturally while in flow. So I remain as I am as body appears to flow. You appear to flow. Environments appear to flow. Everything appears to flow to be in harmony with me. As I do nothing to control. I do nothing to be as I am. I need not do this or that. This or that happens naturally in flow. That is the real experience. That is reality. Reality is perfect as it is now. How do you know for sure? Abide as that still I am presence. Release identification to the appearances. Appearances include environment, people, circumstance, information, thoughts, emotion. Acknowledge that you exist beyond these appearances. Appearances of mind, appearances of body, appearances of thoughts, appearances of emotions, appearances of environment. You exist perfect as you are now, unaffected as unconditional bliss, unconditional love, unconditional peace, unconditional happiness, unconditional fulfillment, limitless love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Infinite love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And as only God alone exists now, as the sure foundation, I rise up from that sure foundation in flow. Because I know I can of myself do nothing, the Father within doeth the work. I can think of myself as the doer of the work, but that would be illusory, as soul doership is an illusion. God animates all in perfect harmony without interference. It is experience. What is this experience of without interference experienced as? Well, attention naturally flows, we can say it that way. Attention naturally flows in the direction that is related to your vision. So we could say that if we were to observe an individual who's abiding as they are, their attention naturally flows to be what is related to on the direction in the direction of what is related to their vision, that they have an unfettered mind. Some refer to this as no mind. There's no fettering or thinking of limitations or beliefs of limitations in mind. Everything happens. And they can say everything happens lovingly, peacefully, blissfully, in a flow-based way. They may describe it, yet everything happens. And upon observation, we say, okay, this individual, their attention remains on what is related to the vision. They're unswayed by appearances. They cannot be swayed by appearances. They're not trying to concentrate. They're not forcing to keep their awareness in one direction. They're not trying to direct their attention in the direction of what is related to their vision. All these things that are naturally added onto them anyways. So, like, for example, in the book, we talk about prospecting, lead generation, client acquisition, ongoing business with existing client. We talk about business models, etc., like we do in the new channel. Yet, when I talk about them, I don't mean that you have to force yourself to do these things. I mean, these are ways of articulating the story of what happens in entrepreneurship, which is part of the theater of God. All of this is the play of God happening now, perfect as it does, as ultimately only God alone exists. Only God alone exists. And if only God alone exists, there's no me versus you, this versus that. Those worries, those concerns don't exist to God. Therefore, I am love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And I cannot imagine you to be in conflict with me, to be in competition with me. And that's another thing we talk about in entrepreneurship as well. There's no such thing as competition to God because only God alone exists. So who is there to compete with? If only God alone exists, as practically speaking, as you abide as that still I am presence, you know certainly that ultimately only God alone exists. It is thus illusory to think otherwise. That kind of illusory thinking belongs to what the Bible refers to as the old man. And as you abide as that still I am presence, you know that the old man is illusory, not real. It's an unreal concept. It's part of this identity construct in mind that the individual may be trying to form and get it to conform and make reality conform. Illusory, not required. As mentioned, you can do nothing to flow. You can simply be, and everything appears to flow. So, if there is no competition, then what happens is naturally the entrepreneurs that don't identify with this concept of competition, me versus them, naturally find ways to collaborate with other entrepreneurs. Even what could appear on the surface based on thinking that belongs to the old man as a competitive business that seems to be cutthroat is illusory, and they find commonality. Practically speaking, I had a speed reading website back in the days, and I would post on there, and I had a mailing list, and I was an affiliate for Iris Reading. Many of you know I teach back in the days the speed reading workshops for Iris Reading. So I got contacted by a company called Ace Reader. They reached out to me on my blog, they filled out the contact form and asked me if I was interested in promoting their software. Now, if I was identified with this belief of competition, which is illusory, as ultimately only God alone exists, I may have thought these things that are related to separation. Like, what will Paul think? Paul and I are friends. We do deals with Iris Reading, and now here's Ace Reader asking me to promote their stuff. But that is not what emerged from clarity. What emerged from clarity, as being as I am, is clarity. What naturally emerged from God knows ways that I might not know. What naturally was dropped in my mind as an idea. It flashed upon my mind's eye as a vision, as an imaginal act. It was flashed. I wasn't trying to imagine. It flashed upon my mind's eye as imaginal activity. Oh, we can collaborate all together. And I saw it. I saw us collaborating together. I felt it as well. One does not need to imagine it. The imaginal act might not flash upon the mind's eye, but you feel it. Because what are you feeling? You're feeling the love, the happiness, the peace, the bliss, the fulfillment, as only God alone exists. And that is, we could say, beyond reason. You feel it in the moment. So we jumped on a three-way call and we worked out a deal. I got to promote Ace Reader. I got to promote Iris Reading. Iris Reading worked a deal out with Ace Reader. Ace Reader worked a deal out with Iris Reading. And Iris Reading had an offer called Iris Ace Reader, which they would give to students that took the workshops. You might know about this if you were a student of Iris Reading or involved with the programs of Ace Reader, maybe around 2012, 13, 14, 15, around that time. So Ace Reader had an offer. Anyone that bought the Ace Reader program, they were presented with an offer. If they're interested in taking one of the Iris workshops, away you go. You can add this to your cart. And Iris Reading had an offer. If you're interested in adding on this software, Ace Reader, which can help you with your speed reading, you can add it to cart. And how wonderful is that? Everyone benefited greatly because we only saw partnership and collaboration and no competition. And this is how I teach entrepreneurship. And this, again, is based on my personal experience. This is not something that I just invented. This is reality. Reality is in perfect harmony. We are in harmony with each other. I am perfect as I am, as you are perfect as you are, because fundamentally there is only reality in harmony. So what did I do then, to go back to the beginning? Over the years, since Think and Grow Rich, I released identification to, because he talked about it, there are these beliefs in the subconscious mind, the dichotomous beliefs that suggest this versus that, and that is not an accurate representation of reality. How can it be this versus that? How can it be? If ultimately only God alone exists. That stated, I go direct to the source by doing nothing. Abiding is that still I am presence. Clarity, love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment permeates the mind, permeates the body. And an idea emerges. Or things happen on their own. I don't know. I might not have an idea. I might not have a plan. Or I might not have a vision that flashes upon the mind's eye. Yet it happens. So what helped me was to acknowledge via the definite chief aim card. That's it. It's an acknowledgement of having. That's it. Desire means having. And what Napoleon Hill called the burning desire is that natural, compelling, it's not a force-based thing. It's a natural compelling to maybe do this or that out of inspiration. It is blissful. It is fun. It is joyous. It is peaceful. It is natural. And at times, it can really do feel like the burning desire. Why do we call it the burning desire? Because let's say if the individual has resistance to doing the sales presentations, the burning desire naturally compels them. They're not afraid. Practically speaking about the iris reading workshops, when I started teaching them, I had the experience of a mixture of excitement and anxiety leading up to the workshops. As I released identification, as I released identification to the thoughts of limitation, as I released identification to the appearances, physical appearances, emotions, thought, any appearances, what happened was naturally that excitement compelled me. I ended up teaching the workshops. So now I feel excitement before doing the workshops. I feel excitement before doing these videos. One could say, you are compelled. It is true. You are compelled to do what you love to do. That is the reality of God. There's only love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment, and you are compelled to be as you are, experiencing love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. And for some individuals, they can describe it as excitement. Some describe it as neutral. Some describe it as peaceful. It's pointing to the same truth that existence, consciousness, bliss. Reality is perfect as it is now. And everyone appears to be in harmony, in flow, and everything happens naturally. I appear to teach this workshop. They appear to show up and benefit greatly from the workshops. Iris Reading and I did the deal. They benefited from me teaching the workshops. Paul, with Iris Reading, got benefited from me teaching the workshops. It resulted in more business deals. I put up that website. There was email lists of people that were interested in speed reading. We did a partnership with Iris Reading and Ace Reader, etc. You see how everything flows naturally. And so over the journey since 2004, all I did was release identification, knowing that vision is reality. And so one could say, why do you still do the definite chief aim card? Which is a great question. I do it for fun. I don't need to do this definite chief aim card. Desire means having. There are many things that I may desire. And I acknowledge that as these desires arise, I have, and they happen. Yet it's made me you could say, a tradition for me. It is something that is more nostalgic, because I've been doing this since 2004, to have a definite chief aim card. And it was very helpful for me in the beginning. Why was it helpful? Because then I know where I appear to go. I already know where I am. I am at that point of being completely fulfilled. In what way, Joseph? The way I imagine, which is how I imagine myself to be. What I imagine myself to experience. I am what I imagine myself to be. I know that it is a symbol of love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Thus I am appearing to think for Joseph, or Joseph can say, or I can say, I really think for myself. Now, that stated, I just remain in flow. And any flow restrictors, which is the result of identification to appearances of thoughts, emotions, whatever, this world here, I release. I release identification. And everything flows. I may do this, I may not do that. I feel compelled. Also, things happen in ways that I don't know. And then the vision is actualized into form. And, oh, that was fun. Mind purification happened along the way to actualizing the vision. Let's set another definite chief aim. Let's see what happens. Well, every definite chief aim I have ever set, actualized. Every one of them. And why is that the case? Because desire means having. Desire means being. What you desire, you have. You are all that you desire to be. You have all that you desire. And as you acknowledge that you are already all that you desire to be, that you have all that you desire, everything spontaneously, naturally is added onto you in flow. And if it's not experienced as flow, it's experienced as flow restrictor. Release identification to the appearances. Do nothing to abide as that still I am presence. And that programming dissolves, which does not represent you. It belongs to the old man. And you are not the old man. You are, we could say, the real man who really thinks for themselves. If you were to think, you really think for yourself. If you were to relate to appearances, you really relate to appearances from the premise of truth. Because you know who you are. You are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Not because I said so, but because that is who you are. I say so, yes. Other people might say so to me. Joseph, you are love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. This is what people say. This is what I say. They say it in different ways. But they're not saying it, we could say, to convince me, because I don't need anyone to convince me. I don't even say it to convince myself, because I am. Who is the self that needs convincing? The self that is love needs to be convinced of being love. That is illusory. The self that is peace needs convincing to be peace. That is illusory. I am peace. I am love. Same with happiness. Same with peace. Same with bliss. Same with fulfillment. Desire means having, or as now I say it this way, desire means being, or desire is being. And then I am desireless. It's interesting. At one point, I was desiring, but now I am desireless. Instantaneously, immediate bliss, immediate love, immediate happiness, immediate peace, immediate fulfillment permeate mind, permeate body, and appear as all these things added onto you in flow. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. Let's conclude this with an auto-suggestion to further encourage. You can say, I know that I am immediately that bliss that I desire. As I acknowledge that still I am presence is where I experience myself as unconditional love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Infinite love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment. Beyond limitation, the eternal love, happiness, peace, bliss, fulfillment that I am, from which everything appears to be added onto me in flow effortlessly and spontaneously to actualize the desires of my heart.